welcome to the G6 family adventure to Glacier National Park in Montana. For this vacation, we had an RV dropped off at our hip campsite just about 5 minutes outside of West Glacier, which was super convenient. Staying in the park is definitely the way to go, but we really did like our hip camp stay. So Glacier is not a park you can just show up to. You have to make reservations far in advance. The only road that goes through the park is the Going to the Sun road, and that does require a reservation, and they do sell out. I'll make a separate video all about the tips and tricks to getting a pass and what you can do if you don't get a pass. It's really stressful, but watch that video and it'll help you guys out. So the first hike on our trip was the Hidden Lake Overlook Trail. This is at the highest point on the Going to the Sun road at the Logan's Pass Visitor Center. This part of the road opens up the latest in the year because of the snow. We were there at the end of July and there were still plenty of snow. Hidden Lake Overlook is a 2.7 mile out and back trail that's considered moderately challenging. Some of it is actually easy on a boardwalk like you see here, and then some of it is going straight up the mountain in some snow. Pretty difficult. It's a super popular trail and it was kind of crowded at times. We got to the Logan's Pass parking lot at 8 a.m. and had to circle around a few times to find a spot. But after we got through the snow, the trail became green and beautiful, and there were a ton of mountain goats just walking along the trail. We also saw some marmots, which my kids thought were beavers. And there is the overlook to the beautiful Hidden Lake. We wanted to go down to the lake, but that trail was closed due to bear activity. In that same Logan's Pass parking lot, we did a small portion of the Highline Trail. We didn't have much time, and it was honestly a little scary because it was right along the edge, so a little scary with the kids. But the Highline Trail is one of the most popular trails in the park. It's 15 miles long, and hopefully one day we'll get to complete it. After the Highline Trail, we headed back down to West Glacier where we had our first whitewater rafting experience. We used the Glacier Rafting Company and they provided wetsuits and shoes, so we stayed pretty warm. This experience was so fun and definitely a highlight of the trip. It had the perfect amount of thrill for the kids, but we definitely felt safe and comfortable the whole time. I highly recommend it. The next day, we headed out early to grab a parking spot for the Avalanche Lake Trail. This is a super popular trail, and we got lucky and found a spot at a campground nearby. This is a 6-mile moderate trail on the Lake McDonald west side of Glacier, and this trail is by far my favorite hike of the trip, probably my favorite hike of the year. The hike itself is gorgeous and peaceful with huge cedar trees and running rivers all the way up. And then the hike leads you to the stunning Avalanche Lake. There were plenty of people eating lunch and just hanging out. We could have stayed there forever, but we did have a reservation, so we had to get back. We actually ended up running some of the trail back because we had to get all the way to the east side. We had reservations that afternoon with the Glacier Park Boat Company for the St. Mary's Lake Tour. This is on the east side of Glacier, and because our friends that were with us had booked this tour, they were allowed on the Going to the Sun road that day, even though they didn't have a pass, so that was pretty cool. The boat tour itself was very informational. It took us over St. Mary's Lake, and then we ended up on a short little hike to a waterfall and stretched our legs. And that was nice. We got back on the boat. While we were on the east side, we hit up St. Mary's and Virginia Falls Trail. This is a 3-mile out and back moderate trail that even though we were exhausted, we really enjoyed. We got to walk through some of the wildfire area and over a bunch of falls. If you do this trail, make sure you keep going past the first fall to this fall, the tall one, which is Virginia Falls. Andrew actually decided to jump into the lower falls a few times. No one else was brave enough, but we did enjoy watching him. So we had hit up the west side, Logan's Pass, and the east side. So now it was time to travel to the mini glacier area. This is further east than East Glacier. It's actually outside the park, and then you have to go back in the park. We arrived at the mini glacier hotel, which was absolutely breathtaking. We had some lunch and snacks before heading out on the boat tour we had booked. This boat departed at Mini Glacier Hotel and took us across Swift Current Lake, where we got off and walked 0.2 miles and then got on a second boat that you saw right there and headed across Lake Josephine, where we got off and started the 4-mile hike to Grinnell Lake. It was a great hike, lots of pretty views. This little footbridge was nice, and there is Grinnell Lake. There's actually a glacier above it, and this is glacier water, so very cold. We stayed for a really long time, had some snacks, fought off the chipmunks from eating our snacks, skipped rocks, and again, brave Andrew got into the water, which was freezing. And this was our last day, and we finally saw a bear. We had seen a ton when we visited Yellowstone, but only one, and it was our last day there at Glacier. Hope you guys enjoyed following us on our Glacier vacation. See you next time.